Malik Nabers is the number one player you need to trade for in your dynasty leagues if you're rebuilding. We'll tell you why next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today is a special guest. It is Chris Nalls from RotoWorld Player Profiler, one of my absolute favorite sites. I can't tell you how often I go to the site, Chris, to check out Dominator age or Dominator rating, breakout age, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely fantastic. Make sure you follow Chris over on Twitter at Chris Nalls NFL. Chris, how you doing?
Marcus, I'm doing phenomenal. Thank you so much for allowing me to come jump on, talk some fantasy football, and at Player Profiler, we definitely appreciate you checking out the website.
Of course, Matt Kelly has been a longtime friend of mine, so anytime that we can help out Matt, do it here at Locked On Dynasty. So all week long, we've been talking about how to rebuild your team into a dynasty champion. We had Matt Williamson on Wednesday talking about the art of trading in your dynasty leagues when you're rebuilding, the types of players you need to be trading away. So let's today talk about three guys that if you're rebuilding, you should throw everything out to go get them. And let's start with, and again, some of these are obvious names, so that's okay. Malik Nabers, the second-year wide receiver from the New York Giants. Chris, why is he your number one trade target if you are rebuilding?
I believe Malik Nabers, obviously what we saw last year, he had 30.8% of the Giants' total team targets. That was highest among rookie receivers since 2000. And that was really with instability at quarterback. I think this year, obviously, Russell Wilson is an upgrade from Daniel Jones. And you also have
We hope.
Correct. I hope. Yes, I hope. I feel it is. I could be wrong, but if I am wrong, there is also Jackson Dart that's sitting there in the wings. And then everyone's fan favorite, Jameis Winston, depending on who you ask. But I really believe Malik Nabers this year it's hard to say breakout because I thought he really broke out last year. I think he's just going to build on that success in 2025, in my opinion.
So I'm a huge Malik Nabers fan, but there's a couple of reasons why I think this is really smart. Right now, over on Dynasty League Football, Malik Nabers is being ranked as wide receiver 4, 5th overall in non-super flex league. So he's a top 5 player.
Absolutely.
Now, here's what I was going to say. He's being ranked that way because of the potential, right? And again, if you're rebuilding, you're probably not all that concerned about competing this year. So do I think he's going to put up the numbers that Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown will this year? Probably not. He just doesn't have the quarterback that those guys have. But you're getting somebody that's on that tier in terms of talent. And you're also going to have that asset on your team. And it's also going to make, again, Nabers is going to put up big numbers, but not maybe high-end wide receiver 1 numbers, which is perfectly fine if you're rebuilding, because what you want to do in rebuild is have a good roster that's maybe not quite ready to compete so you can continue to grab those assets. I think this is a great call.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, he's young. I mean, he's a young stud wide receiver. And I agree. I think Malik Nabers is somebody I would want on my dynasty roster if I was rebuilding.
So let's talk about some potential trades. If you were going to try to trade for Malik Nabers, okay, what would you be willing to give up? Because what makes this so difficult, Chris, is the 3 receivers that are going ahead of him, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and CeeDee Lamb. The oldest of those 3 receivers is CeeDee, who's 26. So you're probably not flopping one of those older guys for Malik Nabers. But would you trade somebody like Nico Collins and a little extra to go get Malik Nabers?
Yes. And as a Texan fan, that would hurt me. But I think the upside of Malik Malik Nabers, the upside, I think, and the talent is just far away ahead of Nico, and the Houston Texans drafted 2 wide receivers in the draft this year. They also traded for Christian Kirk. So targets are going to be, thrown around and distributed, not as much to Nico as it was last year. So, yeah, I would say Nico Collins and a first. I would give up that first, in my opinion.
I agree. I wanted to run through some actual trades that have happened over on Dynasty Football and get your thoughts. So here's a really interesting one. Jahmyr Gibbs in 303, early third round pick for Malik Nabers. I like this trade because if you're rebuilding, you don't want all of your assets to be in the running back position because that's a position where the value depreciates so fast.
It does.
If you could move Jahmyr Gibbs for Malik Nabers, get a little bit younger and move that value over to the receiver, I think you do that all day long.
Agree. I agree. This is coming from a running back guy, but I do agree. I love Malik Nabers. I just love his game. I think he's going to be stable in New York for a long time. And if you can get Malik Nabers for Gibbs, and you said a third, is that correct?
303. Yeah.
303. Yes. If I could grab Malik Nabers for that, I would hit accept now.
Now, what about Bijan straight up? I know you're a Bijan truther, just like I am. Would you trade Bijan for Malik Nabers?
Man.
They're being drafted basically right next to each other in startup drafts.
I feel we haven't seen Bijan complete yet. And I know that's crazy to say. Yes, I would. I would trade it.
You don't need Bijan. If you're rebuilding, you don't need Bijan right now helping you get to, barely sneaking into the fantasy playoffs, right? I think Bijan this year is going to be the more valuable fantasy player, which is probably why you should lean Malik Nabers because I think he has more long-term value. Couple more that I wanted to throw at you, and we'll get to this guy next, but Malik Nabers for Ashton Jeanty straight up. Would you do that?
No. I would have to. Yeah, I would have to. Yeah, I couldn't do that. No, I couldn't do that. No.
All right, I got another one for you. What about Saquon Barkley? These are, again, all real trades that have happened over the last month over on Dynasty League Football. Saquon Barkley in a late first-round pick, let's say pick 109, right?
Yes.
For Malik Nabers.
Yes. Saquon, stud, loving, up there in age. The wall's coming. I just don't know when, but the wall is coming for Saquon.
Okay, last one. Saquon, same thing. Saquon Barkley and DK Metcalf for Malik Nabers.
Yes.
Okay. And I think it's okay if you're going to make a big trade and you're, a lot of times when you're rebuilding in your dynasty leagues, you don't really want to trade for current assets. You want to try to stockpile draft picks. I think this is a player because he's so young and he's so dynamic. I would be fine giving up draft capital, giving up a lot of assets to make sure that I have Malik Nabers because that is a cornerstone of your rebuild. It makes everything else easier to find.
I agree. I love Malik Nabers. I think he's going to be there in your lineup for future, at least 5 to 6 years. And obviously we got to get the Giants quarterback situation panned out. And I think they're pretty close to getting that panned out. But I want Malik Nabers on my team.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about a running back. I know generally you don't want to trade for high-value running backs when you're rebuilding, but I think we've got a special case here. Let's get to Ashton Jeanty next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's the kind of environment you must experience live. And this year's playoffs have already shown that, right? Like we've had an unbelievable NBA playoffs. And if you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games. Prices on the app actually go down the closer that we get to tip off. And with killer last minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. We also had the schedule released this week for the NFL. I'm already looking at some games that I want to go to this season. And scoring tickets is easy with Game Time. You can find great seats for as low as $100. thanks to exclusive discounts. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're talking about 3 players that you should be targeting in your rebuilds. Started with Malik Nabers. Let's go over to the AFC West. Chris, you have a running back that you want us to buy.
Absolutely. It is none other than Ashton Jeanty from the Raiders. We mentioned Saquon earlier. To me, he's just a younger version of Saquon and possibly better. I want him.
Now coming with a strong take in the first appearance. I love it. So again, generally the philosophy, and I'm going to make you have an even harder stance. When you're trading in these situations where you're rebuilding, you don't want to give up assets for running backs. What makes Jeanty the kind of exception for the rule for rebuilders?
I think it's just the longevity that Jeanty's going to give you. It's hard to say durability because we haven't seen him in the NFL yet, but I am just that confident that Jeanty is going to be so special. I think he can take a team that's mediocre and take you into the playoffs. I just believe in Jeanty that much. He's been phenomenal. In college, he averaged 7.3 yards per carry, had over 2,400 yards rushing. He's just a special running back.
How do you like the fit with the Raiders?
I love it. It's nothing but air and opportunity. And Pete Carroll.
And Pete Carroll. Chip Kelly's, I think, a really good offensive mind as well. One of the things that Matt Williamson told us on our Wednesday show is that if you are spending up for running backs, what we've seen is these premier talents, and you guys know the names now: Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Ezekiel Elliott earlier in their career. They don't really lose any dynasty value the first 2-3 years of their career. And Chris, look no further than Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. Right now, Jahmyr Gibbs, RB1, 4th overall in dynasty leagues. Bijan Robinson, 6th overall. Those guys have had 2 years in the NFL. They were both been very productive. Maybe Bijan's been a little less productive than we've thought. I don't think Jeanty is going to be a player who depreciates in value that quickly. So you could even trade for him, have him on your roster for 2 years, and you're likely not going to see any drop in value. And maybe that's the time to move on. So my question for you, like if you have Bijan right now, who again is ranked a couple spots ahead of Ashton Jeanty, would you trade Bijan for Jeanty straight up?
Yes.
Would you trade Gibbs for Jeanty straight up? So I'm going to assume that you have Jeanty as your RB1 in this class, or RB1 overall right now.
He is, yes, I would have him RB1 for me. That's a great question, actually. I haven't really structured my rankings, but yes, I would put Jeanty as my RB1.
So, and that's a perfect reason why you should go out and trade for him right now, because he's not being valued quite like that. It's not far off. His ADP is 10.5, 11th overall. He's 2 years younger than Gibbs and Bijan. So you are getting the younger version of those guys. And again, his value is not going to go down. Even if he has let's say it's 1,300 total yards, 7-8 touchdowns, nobody's going to be giving up on Ashton Jeanty after 1 year, right? So there's just no way the value goes down. And those are, again, the type of players you want to trade for in your rebuilds.
Yes, totally agree. And don't forget about the receiving, his receiving abilities as well. He's a great pass catcher. And I just think Jeanty is someone it's easy to must have on your roster.
So let's run through some trades courtesy of Dynasty League Football. A lot of very interesting ones. So let's start with this one. In a super flex league, would you trade Jalen Hurts for Ashton Jeanty straight up if you're rebuilding?
Hands down, yes.
Okay. What about a couple of receivers, Drake London and Chris Olave for Ashton Jeanty?
You got me on London. Olave, hands down, he's gone. Yes, I'd have to hit smash on that one. Yeah. Yes, okay. Accept it.
Here's another one. This is a super flex league, so it makes it a little closer. Josh Allen for Ashton Jeanty, and Rome Odunze.
See, you say super flex, and I'm sitting here thinking, who's my QB2 and who's on my bench before I make that trade.
But I like that trade in the sense of, again, if you're trying to rebuild, maybe your roster is just crap outside of Josh Allen, getting a 22-year-old Rome Odunze and a 21-year-old Ashton Jeanty is a pretty good way to restart that rebuild.
Yes, because I'm not a Rome Odunze fan, so I would take Jeanty. Yeah.
Okay. CeeDee Lamb for Ashton Jeanty straight up. CeeDee's 26, so it's not like he's old, but he's kind of peaking right now. I know I'm challenging.
It's hard because I'm sitting here trying to think, what does my team look like? You know, what are the, you know, I'd have to say yes. I'd have to say yes. Yes.
I tend to agree with you as well. All right, last one. This is for somebody who maybe they've been stockpiling picks for the last couple of years, and now they want to cash in those picks on a premier talent. Actually, I don't think this is a bad idea. Like, if you have the opportunity to go get an elite player, it's okay to cash those picks in that you've been hoarding. So it's Ashton Jeanty for 104. This is a super flex league, so you're probably looking at that point. What do you think? Cam Ward at 2, Omari Hampton at 3. You're probably looking at Travis Hunter, Ted McMillan, one of the other running backs, a 2026 first round pick, and a 2027 first round pick.
I feel like I'm on draft day with Kevin Costner.
David Putney's in there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I was. Oh, well, in that case, absolutely. Yes. Hands down. 3 first rounds.
And what we know for sure that one of them is 104, right? So you're getting Travis Hunter, something like that.
I have to say, I'm going to say no just on this. I'm just going to say no on this. I feel if I'm picking at the 4th spot, my team isn't that strong. So I'm going to need future assets. So I would say no, as much as that pains me, because I love Jeanty. But if I'm picking at the 1.4 and if it's because of my record, my team isn't necessarily good. So no, I would say no.
Okay.
Not for 3.
I personally love Travis Hunter, so I probably wouldn't trade away from Travis Hunter and the other assets, of course, right? But 2 other first-round picks, it's a lot. But I can totally understand that if you decide, hey, it's my roster's fairly close, I want to cash those in. All I need is Ashton Jeanty to make that run. I can at least understand it.
Yeah. 2. You can get away with 2 first rounds, but 3 is just 3. It's hard.
Some of my favorite deals that I've ever made in dynasty leagues where I get first round picks that are like 2-3 years down the road, because by the time you get to use that pick, you completely forgot what you traded away to get those guys anyways. And it's always like, oh, great. Another first round pick that I get to use. Let's go talk about a wide receiver who has been one of the most debated receivers in dynasty leagues this offseason, and that's Marvin Harrison Jr. We will get to him next. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show. The NFL draft is over, but the roster moves and the news never stops. Host Kyle Krabs, Joe Moreno will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. All right, we are here with Chris Nalls from Player Profiler, talking about 3 players that we are trading for when we're rebuilding in our dynasty leagues. And let's get to the big one, Marvin Harrison Jr., who has seen his value just go all over the place. In the latest batch of Dynasty League Football ADP, he's wide receiver 11, 16th overall. Couple of the receivers ahead of him, Ladd McConkey, Drake London, Nico Collins, and A.J. Brown's ADP is almost the same. So make the case why Marvin Harrison Jr. is one of the best players you could be trading for right now.
I personally feel Marvin Harrison, his value has dropped, as you mentioned. I think you could possibly snag him I would say around a second, if you're trying to trade for him right now. He had 51 receptions, 885 yards, and 8 touchdowns, which isn't horrible, but I feel there's a lot more to that ceiling for Marvin Harrison. I think this year you're going to really see a growth spurt for Marvin Harrison with the Arizona Cardinals.
We've seen his ADP just take a nosedive since the season started. So September 2024, before the year started, 6 overall in startup drafts. 6. Coming out of December, 9th overall. His lowest ADP has now been 18th in February. It's gone up a little bit, 16th overall. I think there are some dynasty managers that are concerned, and we talked about this earlier in the week with Kate Majuk, that they have Trey McBride, who's going to steal touches in the middle of the field. We know the Cardinals want to run the ball. Kyler Murray is always a threat to run the ball 10, 12 times a game. Is Kyler the type of quarterback that can push the ball vertically and give him the targets needed as an X receiver? I think so. Like I'm personally a Kyler Murray fan, but I could understand the argument of some of these other guys that are being drafted in the same range. And there's just a chance that Drake London sees 60 more targets this year from Michael Penix than what Marvin Harrison sees from Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, I think Kyler Murray does push the ball downfield this year a little bit more. I think they've kind of learned that lesson. They drafted Marvin Harrison really, really high. I think they want to get him involved in that offense way more than what was last year. I think the wide receiver 2 there, oh Lord help me.
It's Michael Wilson.
Michael Wilson.
We got some Greg Dortch action.
Yeah, I think Marvin Harrison's really the only wide receiver there that's a threat. Now, yes, Trey McBride, I will agree on. He's going to take some targets away, but you're not going to win games by just targeting a tight end. And it's not just a regular tight end. It's Trey McBride. He's a stud. But they're going to have to push that ball down the field. And the way they're going to do that is throw to Marvin Harrison.
This one's tough. I struggle with Marvin Harrison. Because I firmly believe in the talent. Like I think he is an amazing player. I love what I saw from him in Ohio State. I think he was as close to a generational wide receiver prospect that we've had. But I do think there are some concerns that maybe this offense isn't the most dynamic in the world. I don't think it's the most creative. And I don't know how much they're going to give Marvin Harrison some of these layup targets that some of these other receivers get. Like, again, Drake London, who I'm a huge fan of, I don't think he's as talented as Marvin Harrison Jr., but he's just in a much better offense that knows how to utilize his skill set. I think I would prefer Drake London in my dynasty leagues, but I want to show you, Chris, how far the floor has kind of dropped here for Marvin Harrison. Let's go through some trades, all of these within the last week on Dynasty League football. Marvin Harrison Jr. for Terry McLaurin and 201 in this year's draft.
Oh man, I would if I'm getting I would be the one that would want Marvin Harrison. I'm sorry. I'm not.
But that's the type of trade that you might be able to pull off in your league if you're trying to rebuild. Like, hey, Terry McLaurin's an aging asset. I think he's going to be 30 this year. Pull it off. Another one. T. Higgins and pick 202 for Marvin Harrison Jr. Again, I would rather have Harrison there.
Yeah, I would too. I agree. There's no way.
Okay. Again, Marvin Harrison Jr. for Tetairoa McMillan straight up.
Ooh, that's interesting.
But as a prospect, I don't think they're close. And I was a big T-Mac fan. They're not close in my mind. And I still think Kyler's a better quarterback than Bryce Young. But I'm kind of with you. Like, part of me feels like
I'm stuck on that because I am somewhat of a Bryce Young fan. I believed in him. I just think he needed a little bit more time. And I don't want to veer off from Marvin Harrison. But I think, man, I'm not going to say that. But, I mean, could Bryce Young be a better quarterback than Kyler Murray? I don't know.
Yes.
I think he definitely progressed really well at the end of last season. So we're going to really see what happens. But straight up, Tet, for Marvin, I still got to go Marvin Harrison just because of the talent alone.
All right, here's one. Here's one. If you're breaking down Justin Jefferson, maybe you don't have. Maybe Justin Jefferson is your only asset on your team, right? And you're not close. This is a good way to break Justin Jefferson down. So Justin Jefferson in a 2026 second round pick for Marvin Harrison Jr., 107, 307, a 2026 first, and a 2026 third.
Absolutely not. Way too much. No.
Would you rather have? I'm assuming you'd rather have Marvin Harrison there, right?
Correct. Yes.
Right.
It's the upside of Harrison, and then that's a lot of assets to give up. And I like Justin Jefferson.
But that's what we're talking about. Like if you're rebuilding and Jefferson is your only asset, I think that's how you try to break him down in a trade, is to go out, target somebody like Marvin Harrison Jr., whose value maybe is a little suppressed right now, and get Marvin Harrison Jr. and two other big time assets to go with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If I was the one that had Justin Jefferson, I needed to rebuild. Absolutely. Hands down, I would do that trade.
Okay.
Absolutely.
How about another one? Similar. Jamar Chase for Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze, Evan Ingram.
No, Jamar, I gotta stick with Chase on it.
Yeah, it's not quite as I would rather have the other package where you're getting 2 first-round picks.
Yes.
It's not awful, but it's not my favorite either. So I think the thing is right now, and what we've seen all week long, is that there's just a bunch of Marvin Harrison trades getting done. Go to the Dynasty manager in your league that has Marvin Harrison Jr. and see if you can get him for 75 cents, 80 cents on the dollar right now, because that value is at an all-time low. All right, that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Make sure you check out the show on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Make sure you follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Nalls NFL. Check out his work over at Player Profiler. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday.